everybody. This is episode 110. 110, Cary. 55 and 5. If you joined us yesterday, Cary was enjoying some Oreos. We taped these back to back. He's still enjoying said Oreos. Me and Riccaboni. Cary Silkin, our producer AJ from Bisson Creative Web Design. This is the look and the jaunt, the stroll, the marathon through the 121 1955 Parkhurst Wrestling trading card set. We're going one card at a time, and we're at 110 with card number 76. And I'm going to show this. We're going to set a timer for 5 minutes. Cary and I can talk quite a bit, and we could talk all day about this man. This is a A-list, bona fide, A-plus Hall of Famer. And with a move that Jonathan Gresham has successfully brought back to professional wrestling, as has the world-famous CB, that's a short arm scissors being applied to Whipper Billy Watson. Cary, what can you tell me about the great Thesz?
He is the great Thesz. I mean, here's a guy that had a career from the 30s into the 70s. Or even longer?
He had one match in 1990.
Really?
Yeah.
NWA champion multiple times.
3 times, yeah. Do you know how many? Do you want to take a guess on how many combined days he held that title for?
Oh, probably like combined days.
Yeah.
Like 5,000 or something?
Yeah, close. 3749.
Okay.
Which is over 10 years worth.
Right. And so in my earliest days of scouring for the wrestling magazines and getting them at the candy store and looking at the ratings, and I knew the WWF, but I'd always see this Thesz name. Mm-hmm. And then when I would see an article on him and I'd see these pictures, he didn't look that tough.
He didn't look like Bruno.
No. Yeah. But he was, even as a child, and, after about 6 months of wrestling, a heavy dose of wrestling magazines, you just knew that this was a respected legend. And I think his last NWA run was in the 60s.
It was, yeah. Yeah, he had a number of runs. His first one came, he actually won the AWA title. If you've watched this before, the AWA title was defended primarily in Boston, sometimes in Montreal. That was his first world title in 1937. And the funny story about that is he didn't know if he actually won the title because he won it or because he had to shoot on his opponent, because there was some discrepancy. And he doesn't know if the planned finish was the planned finish, or if he, not accidentally, but if he had to make sure it was the planned finish. And that was sort of his legacy as a shooter and a hooker. He knew he was supposed to win, but he doesn't know whether or not the finish was cooperative, so to speak. And that's a fun story that he tells. He was one of the most respected amateurs in the state of Michigan. And so by 16, he had been sought out by Tom Pax, who was the promoter in St. Louis, to become a professional wrestler. And Tom Pax had him train under George Tragos and Ray Steele. Ray Steele had been an NWA champion. And Ad Santel and Ed Strangler Lewis, who was one of the greats of all time also.
That's some excellent training you're getting.
Right. Only four of the greatest of all time. And debuts in 1932 at age 16, wins the AWA title at 37 in 1937. He won his first NWA title in 39, the American Wrestling Association. He defeated Everett Marshall, and then he won it again in 48. So it was 9 years in between reigns. He defeated Wild Bill Longson for that title. And then from there, one of the more interesting things in history, in 49 through 56, he goes on that expedition where essentially the National Wrestling Alliance says, we want our world title to be the only world title. And they were giving promoters incentive to become part of the NWA and to unify their title. And the biggest one of them all was Baron Leone versus Thesz in Los Angeles, where the first $100,000 gate, they had to turn thousands of people away to see Leone versus Thesz. But Thesz did that all around the country.
All over the world.
All over the world. And that's actually the next point. Do you know where the next biggest place Thesz was?
In India?
Japan.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure he wrestled in India, but he loses the title in 56 to Whipper Billy Watson, who you see on the card. But he drew massive amounts of money against Ricky Dozen in 1956. And he comes back and he tries to tell the NWA, hey, I need to get the belt, or if I get the belt back, I need to take it back over there. We can make money. Like, let me take it there. Let me try and win a couple titles there. And he doesn't really get his wish, but goes there quite a bit. And he eventually holds something that is recognized as the NWA International title. And that becomes part of the All Japan Triple Crown, which still exists.
Wow.
Yeah. So Lou Thesz still lives on in modern wrestling in a couple of title lineages. He invents a whole host of moves. He invents the belly-to-belly suplex, essentially known as the German suplex because Karl Gotch perfects it, so to speak. The Lou Thesz press, the STF, which he personally bestows to Masachono, the step over toe hold, face lock, and one of the originators of the power bomb. Believe it or not. So you don't necessarily associate him with that.
Well, I never got to see him.
No.
Although he made a ton of Garden appearances, they didn't bring him in.
Yeah.
During my time, which is sad.
Yeah.
Because they could have brought him in.
Right.
I think he was. Maybe there was something with him and the McMahon.
He had a very traditional view of wrestling. He thought wrestlers should be amateur wrestlers.
Right.
And he did come in 87, though. He won the Legends Battle Royal.
In where?
In the Nassau Coliseum.
Really?
Yep.
Huh.
Yep.
That has to be on film somewhere.
That's the one. I think it is. I think newsreel clips of it exist.
Interesting.
So that's the one that Macho Man was upset that Lanny Poffo wasn't invited.
Well, there's just a case where they give the guy too little, too late.
Right. Yeah, he was a charter member of just about every Hall of Fame. First ballot inductee to the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame. You name it, he's in every Hall of Fame. And he's in the rare club that Bushwhacker Luke just joined a couple of weeks ago. Wrestled in 7 decades.
Yes. And Luke right now is the second all-time. I forget. There's a Japanese wrestler who's wrestled, longer lifetime.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, but he's number 2 right now.
Wow.
All time.
That's incredible.
Our good friend.
Yeah. Well, Thesz wrestled his last match was in 1990 against Masahiro Chono, who he bestowed the STF to, and he had just become a huge star and influence in Japan, responsible for some of the, they call it shoot style fighting, but like UWFI, he had a hand in Japan. Also loved mixed martial arts. He thought that he kind of predicted that would become a big deal because it incorporated a lot of the elements of amateur wrestling. And so he was ahead of his time in more ways than one. And passed away in 2002. He lived to be 86 years old.
Guy like him, you never think, how's he possibly going to die?
Right. And he always looks so good.
And there was never really much talk about him partying.
Right.
Or, drinking and this and
Yeah.
that. But, all hail the great Lou Thesz.
Yeah, hail Lou Thesz, probably the biggest star of the 1950s, arguably. If Gorgeous George was the biggest star of the 40s because of the way he helped explode television, Lou Thesz probably the biggest star of the 1950s. One of the biggest stars of the 60s as well, right there with Buddy Rogers in the 50s and 60s.
Well, that was a good batch.
Yeah, it was a good group this week. We had a lot of fun, a lot to sink our teeth into. We got 11 left. So I kept saying, well, Lou Thesz and Buddy Rogers are left. That means we got one in the chamber. Okay. Buddy Rogers is coming. I think one of the Dusek, I think maybe Joe Dusek is left. Oh. So study up on Joe Dusek. That might be a ringer we can give you. And we're going to have a lot of fun. And we got some halves of tag teams left as well.
Okay.
Maybe some individuals that
some more Mills or Sharps.
I think we got one Sharp. I think we got one Mills. I think they did one brother, not the other. And I think we got both Togo and his partner Tanaka.
Okay.
I think we got both those left. I think. No more little people. There's one in the 50.
There was only one card.
There's 2 in the 54 set. That's what you might. So we're gonna have to do the whole 54 set just to make sure we get all the little people. But this has been a lot of fun. 110, 11 to go. We hope you enjoy it. Today's episode. We hope you join us for the rest. For Cary, AJ, I'm Ian Riccaboni. Happy wrestling, everybody.